The clock on the office wall ticked louder than usual. My hands trembled as I held my old, worn-out phone. After 25 years in this company, I never thought I would see such a message. "We no longer need your services. Please clear your desk. Goodbye." That was it. No meeting, no handshake, no thank you. Just cold words on a bright screen. I stared at the message, my eyes filling with tears. Around me, the office buzzed like any other day. Phones rang, papers shuffled. But my world had fallen silent. My heart ached like it had been squeezed tight. Memories of the long nights, the missed family dinners, the sacrifices I made for this company, all rushed back like a flood. I had given them everything, my youth, my strength, my loyalty. And now I was thrown away like yesterday's trash. A deep sigh escaped my lips as I whispered to myself, "Is this really how it ends?" Little did they know, this was not the end. No, not yet. I sat still at my desk, staring at the blinking cursor on my computer screen. My hands rested like heavy stones on the keyboard. The same screen I had used to build this company's success now seemed to mock me. I looked at the empty coffee mug beside me, stained from years of early mornings. Each mark told a story of dedication. No one around me seemed to notice. The new manager walked past, avoiding my eyes. Co-workers pretended to be busy, too afraid to speak. My heart felt heavy, like carrying a mountain inside my chest. I wanted to scream, to ask them, "Didn't you see my efforts? Don't you remember all the times I stayed late to help you?" But my voice was trapped in my throat. Instead, I quietly folded my hands and closed my eyes, breathing in the sharp pain of betrayal. As my tears welled, I felt a small fire flicker deep inside me. A whisper in my heart said, "They don't know your secret. Hold on." I opened my eyes slowly, a tear rolling down my cheek. They thought they ended my story, but I was only turning the page. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk, the one no one ever noticed. Inside was a small, plain folder with my name written in faded ink. It held my secret. For years, while working long hours, I had quietly built something of my own. A plan. A dream. Piece by piece, in the quiet of lonely nights, I had prepared for this very moment. I brushed the dust off the folder and placed it gently on my desk. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with quiet strength. The room still hummed with voices, none of them mine. But for the first time, I felt power return to my veins. They think they broke me, I thought, but they only freed me. I flipped open the folder, reading the first page of my plan. My eyes scanned the numbers, the letters, the future I'd carved out for myself in secret. A soft smile crept onto my face despite the tears still wet on my cheeks. They thought they had ended my journey, but they had no idea. My greatest chapter was just about to begin. I looked around my small corner of the office, the place I had called home for 25 years. On my desk were pictures of my family, faded from sunlight, my wife, holding our baby boy from years ago, my parents, now gone, smiling with pride at my company award. That award meant everything once. It said, Employee of the Year. Now it felt like a cruel joke. My fingers touched the photo frames, and my heart squeezed tight. I remembered the early mornings, the sleepless nights. I remembered skipping birthdays, missing dinners, always saying, "I have to work late." Tears blurred my vision. "They took everything," I whispered to myself. "Everything but this." I picked up the folder from my drawer, clutching it as if it held my whole life. In a way, it did. I looked back at my desk one last time. My heart broke into pieces, but deep inside, I felt a spark of something stronger than pain. They will regret this, I told myself quietly, my lips trembling. The room was still full of people, but I had never felt so alone. Yet I held on to hope. As I sat there, still holding my secret folder, I felt the weight of the years pressing on my chest. 25 years of loyalty, tossed aside with a simple text. No face-to-face talk, No thank you, no respect. The tears in my eyes felt hot, but I refused to let them fall. I thought of my family waiting at home, never knowing today would be the day I lost my job. I thought of my wife's tired eyes always waiting up for me even when I worked late. I thought of my son, now grown, who always looked up to me as his hero. A small voice inside me spoke, like a whisper in a storm. You are not done yet. I breathed in deeply, steadying my hands as they shook. Slowly, I opened the folder and looked at the papers I had prepared over the years. My backup plan, my escape, my future. It wasn't just numbers and words. It was my hope, my second chance. They don't know what I've built, I thought. For the first time since reading that cruel message, a small smile tugged at the corner of my lips. They would soon find out. I heard footsteps behind me. The new manager was coming closer, pretending not to notice my pain. His eyes stayed glued to the floor like I was invisible, but I wasn't invisible. Not to myself, not anymore. I kept my eyes on my folder, my fingers running over the edges of the papers I had prepared so carefully. These papers were not just plans. They were proof that I still had worth, even when the company had thrown me away. As the manager passed my desk, he dropped a small box beside me. For your things, he said coldly, not meeting my eyes. My heart cracked again, but I kept my face calm. I slowly placed my family pictures into the box, one by one. With each photo, a tear slipped down my cheek, but I wiped it away quickly. They thought they were ending my story with this box, but I was only packing my past to carry into my future. I closed the folder carefully and placed it on top of the box, like a crown on a king's head. They will see, I whispered, my voice strong at last. They will all see. I stood up slowly from my chair. My knees felt weak, like they were carrying not just my body but the weight of all the years I had given to this place. The box in my hands felt heavier than it should. Inside were not just objects, they were pieces of my life. I took a step away from my desk. That step felt like a mountain. I had walked through these same paths every day for 25 years, greeting faces, fixing problems, carrying the company on my tired shoulders. Now I was walking out unseen and unwanted. I passed by my old calendar, still marked with reminders. Company anniversary, quarterly meeting, son's birthday. The last one always circled in red. I never made it home in time. My eyes burned with tears. As I moved, I felt the stares. Some co-workers peeked from behind their screens. Some quickly looked away, pretending I wasn't there. But I saw them. They saw me too. But no one said a word. No farewell, no handshake, no thanks. Only silence. But deep inside me, a voice whispered, "Keep walking. Your story is not over yet." The office felt colder than usual. The bright lights overhead cast shadows on the walls, making everything look unfamiliar, like I had never belonged here. Yet I had spent half my life in this very room. I stood still for a moment, clutching the box tighter, afraid that if I let go, I might crumble to the floor. I glanced at the nameplate on my desk, the one that once filled me with pride. Senior Operations Manager. It used to mean something. Now it felt like a joke. My chest ached as memories flooded my mind. Late nights fixing problems, early mornings chasing deadlines, the sacrifices I made, believing it would all be worth it in the end. But the end came with a text message. Just a cold, heartless text. My eyes blurred with tears, but I forced myself to blink them away. No, I told myself. I will not let them see me break. I took another slow step toward the door, feeling the eyes on my back. The silent whispers. The quiet judgment. They think I've lost, I thought. But they didn't know what I carried inside that folder, hidden under the memories. Hope. A quiet, burning hope. Before reaching the door, I paused. I turned around slowly, taking in the office one last time. The place that had aged me, drained me, yet strangely shaped me. Desks lined the room like soldiers, papers stacked in high towers, phones kept ringing, keyboards kept tapping, as if my whole life wasn't falling apart right there. I felt invisible, but my heart was thundering in my chest. For a moment, I imagined my younger self walking in here on the first day and full of dreams, full of trust. I wanted to reach back in time and warn him. Be ready. They will take everything from you, except your courage. I squeezed the folder tighter under my arm. It was more than just paper. It was my shield, my sword, my escape. As I looked at the faces around me, some eyes darted away, full of guilt. Others stayed fixed on their screens, too afraid to look. But I looked at all of them, and I smiled. Not with happiness, but with quiet, unstoppable strength. They think they wrote my ending, I thought. But they were wrong. This was just my beginning. The manager hovered near my desk again, pretending to tidy some papers. But I knew better. He wanted to make sure I left quietly. He didn't look at me, not even once. It stung, more than I thought it would. After all the years I had trained him, guided him, even covered for his mistakes, he couldn't even say goodbye. I felt my chest tighten, like someone was squeezing my heart with both hands. Slowly, I picked up my service plaque from the shelf. 25 years of excellence, it read, shining under the office lights. But in this moment, it felt like a lie. My hands shook as I placed it in the box. My eyes, clouded with tears, caught a glimpse of my folder, my secret plan. They don't know what's inside, I reminded myself. They see an old man leaving with a box, but they don't see the future I carry. For the first time, I met the manager's eyes. He quickly looked away, uncomfortable. Good, I thought. Let him wonder. Let them all wonder. My story wasn't ending here. It was just beginning. I sat for a moment longer at my desk, my heart heavy but my mind growing clear. I remembered when my son used to visit me here, running around this very office, calling it Dad's castle. He believed in me. He believed this place was my kingdom. Now I realized this was never my castle. This was my cage. With slow, steady hands, I took one last look at the walls that had watched me grow older. I remembered the jokes shared, the birthdays forgotten, the late-night lights still glowing when everyone else had gone home. My throat tightened as I placed my son's old drawing into the box. A stick figure of me with the words, "My hero, Dad." Tears spilled freely now, warm and unstoppable. This place had taken so much from me, but they could not take away the love in that drawing. They could not erase the pride in my son's eyes. I gently closed the box like closing a chapter of my life. They thought they buried me, I whispered to myself. But they only planted a seed. My plan, my secret, was ready to grow. I stood up from my chair, the same chair that had carried my weight through 25 long years of service. It creaked softly, like it too felt the sadness of this moment. I held the box close to my chest. Inside it were my memories, my quiet victories, and my pain. But under it all, hidden beneath the personal things, was my folder, my plan. As I turned to leave, I stopped for a moment and looked at my desk, once full of life, now empty like my place in this company. No one came to say goodbye, not even the ones I had helped the most. The silence was louder than any words. My heart felt like it might break completely, but I forced myself to stand tall. I would not let them see my tears fall. They think this is defeat, I thought. They think they've silenced me. But as I took my first step away from the desk, a strange feeling washed over me. Not sadness, but strength. Because I knew something they did not. The next step I took would not be backward. It would be toward something far greater. I stood there just outside the glass door, looking back through the clear window. Inside, they kept working like nothing happened, as if my 25 years had meant nothing. I felt my chest tighten, like someone had tied a rope around my heart and pulled hard. I thought about the early days, I remembered how proud I was when I first got this job. I used to walk in with a straight back, full of hope. I believed this place would give me a good life for my family. But now they had thrown me out like old paper. My eyes fell on the box I carried. Inside were pieces of my life, photos of my wife and son, small awards, little things that kept me going through the hardest times. I felt a tear roll down my cheek. My lips trembled, but I held my head high. They think I am done, I whispered to myself. But they didn't know about the folder hidden under the memories. That folder was not just my plan. It was my revenge, my answer, my future. And it was about to change everything. For a moment, I just stood there, my eyes locked on the building that had once felt like home. It felt strange to say goodbye like this. No farewell party, no handshake, not even a thank you. Only cold silence. A sharp wind brushed against my face, drying the tears on my cheeks. I tightened my grip on the box, feeling every small object inside shift and settle. My heart ached, not just from the loss, but from the memories I would carry forever. I thought of my family waiting at home, not knowing what had happened. I thought of my son, who always believed his father was a hero. I had to be strong. For them, for myself. As I looked at the office one last time, I felt a strange calm wash over me. They took my job, I thought, but they cannot take my courage. The folder inside my box pressed against my arm, as if reminding me it was still there, still full of hope. I turned away from the office, breathing deeply. A chapter had closed, but a new one, brighter and bolder, was waiting just ahead. With every step away from the office, my heart felt lighter, even as my eyes stayed misty with tears. The sky above was clear and bright, as if it had been waiting for me to finally see it. I thought about my son's little drawing inside the box, the words "my hero dad" still fresh in my mind. I could not let him down. No, I would not let them win. I paused for a moment, setting the box on the ground. Slowly, I reached inside and pulled out the folder. It felt warm in my hands, alive with all the work I had poured into it for years. Inside were plans for my own business, ideas, savings, contacts I had built quietly, step by step, while working in that office. They never knew. They never saw me coming. My fingers gently turned the first page. I could almost hear my heartbeat in my ears, fast and strong. They thought they ended my journey, I whispered, but I have just found my beginning. With the folder in my hands and the sky wide open above, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, unstoppable hope. As I held the folder close to my chest, my phone buzzed in my pocket. For a moment my heart jumped. Was it another cruel message from the company? With shaky hands I pulled out my phone, but it wasn't from them. It was from Mr. Harris, an old friend, someone I had quietly shared my business ideas with over the years. He was a man of few words, but his message was clear. I heard what happened. Let's meet. It's time to start your own company. My eyes filled with tears, but this time, they were not tears of pain. They were tears of hope, tears of a future that was finally opening before me. I looked up at the sky, bright and wide. For so long, I had built my backup plan in the shadows, never knowing when I would need it. Now the moment had come. The people inside that cold office thought they had pushed me down, but they had unknowingly pushed me into my destiny. With a deep breath, I wiped my tears away and whispered, "They ended my job, but they started my future." I stepped forward, ready to build what they could never destroy. I stood there, phone still in my hand, heart pounding like a drum inside my chest. For the first time in years, I felt alive, truly alive. I placed the phone back into my pocket and picked up the box with care, the folder resting proudly on top. It felt like the weight was no longer heavy. It felt like wings. The cold office door behind me had closed, but in my heart, a bigger door was opening. I thought of my wife, waiting at home, always believing in me even when I doubted myself. I thought of my son, whose simple words, "My hero, Dad," gave me strength when everything else was falling apart. I would build this business not just for me but for them, for every late night, every missed moment, every sacrifice. This would be my victory. I took a step forward, then another, feeling the wind on my face. "They thought they were ending my story," I whispered, "but they only helped me write my next chapter." And in that moment, I felt something powerful rising inside me. Not fear, not sadness, but freedom. And freedom is worth everything. As I walked away from the cold office, my heart felt light, yet full of dreams, full of purpose. In my mind, I could already see it. My new office, not filled with cold faces, but with people who believed in me. People I would treat with kindness, respect, and warmth. My phone buzzed once more. "We're ready when you are," Mr. Harris texted again. I smiled, tears filling my eyes. Not tears of loss, but tears of victory. They tried to bury me, I thought, but they didn't know I was a seed. With each step, I felt years of pain leave my shoulders. I walked toward the future I had built in silence, away from the place that never truly saw my worth. The company had lost me forever, but I had found myself, and that is the greatest victory of all. As I reached the end of the office walkway, I looked back one last time. I smiled softly and whispered, "Goodbye." Then, I turned my eyes to the future. Bright, wide open, waiting for me. My dear friends, if this story touched your heart, please give it a like. If you felt my pain, my tears, and my victory, I would be so honored if you left a comment below. Share your own story with me. And if you believe in new beginnings, please subscribe to my channel so we can walk together through many more stories of hope, strength, and tears. I read every single comment, and your words mean the world to me. Let's keep this beautiful family growing. From my heart to yours, thank you.